listening to Frank Skinner's podcast from Absolute Radio.
This is Frank Skinner on Absolute Radio, speaking of which. Frank Skinner, Absolute Radio, Emily Dean, Steve Hall. Text the show on 81215. Follow the show on Twitter at Frank on the Radio. Email the show via the Absolute Radio website. That's the basics.
Good morning, everyone.
Morning.
Good morning.
Thank you.
People probably think we don't listen to the adverts that get played around this show.
We do.
There's a catchy tune on the street at the moment, the advert street.
On the street?
I can't quite. How does it go? It goes.
I'll tell you exactly how it goes. Well, you tell me.
Does it go? Have I got PPI.com?
Okay, I'll tell you how I think it goes. Did I get PPI.com?
That sounds better. I thought it was Have I.
Or maybe it's Have I. Okay, the producer's nodding, suggesting
I don't think we should see PPI in the past tense.
The producer seems to be indicating in an extraordinary way that my tune's right, your lyrics are right.
The only people that ever indicate in the modern world is the fourth official.
I got the tune right, you got the lyrics right, Frank.
Okay.
Okay.
Anyway, it's got
You're
me...
going to be on the new X Factor singing
got
it.
me
I heard her
thinking-
singing, have I got PPI?
I am a PPI denier.
What do you mean?
Because I get regular, like most people in Britain, I get regular texts asking me if I've got PPI and I can claim back loads of money. And I've always thought it's a bit sordid.
Me too.
I don't want to get involved in it. It feels to me like some sort of laundering exercise. So I've ignored it. And now this advert has suddenly said that the deadline is August 2019. Now, it's not pressing. I'm not going to say it's pressing. It's 2 years away. But it has made me think I'm going to be pretty gutted. I remember once finding a £5 in a drawer, and it was an out-of-date one.
Frank.
I felt like I'd been punched in the stomach.
I don't think you strike me as someone who's always adopted the neither a borrower nor a lender be maxim.
Well, there was one point in my life when I had a mortgage.
Okay.
Man
of the people, everyone.
Yeah. No, well, I did live in
a lot of people have that. It just lasts them 25 years.
I did live in a lot of rented accommodation. It's not all been glory.
No.
But that could have been people. Who knew? I mean, who knew?
Yeah.
No one said to me.
Because when someone said, have you ever had PPI, it makes it sound like they're accusing you of being a voyeur. Have you ever been PPI'd? Either that or you've gone to the toilet and had a horrible mistake.
Explanations for that joke. 8, 12, 15.
Wow. I think I did get PPI.
You did?
I'm pretty sure I did.
Well,
yeah.
fill your boots.
I don't, for similar reasons to you. I don't want to get involved, and I don't want.
Well,
people
I'm changing my mind. That's what I'm saying.
Okay.
I'll tell you what it's like for me. Do you remember that girl at school, or boy, I suppose it worked for him? At school, you never really noticed, never really registered, and then one day you thought, you know what, she's beautiful. Never noticed before. That's what PPI is like in my life.
I think I understand Steve's joke.
Not PPI, but PPI refunds. PPI refunds. I think, didn't he write a book about American history in the 1930s?
I think I get the joke.
Oh, do you?
Yeah.
Is it rude?
No.
Oh.
It's like peeping, like a peeping Tom, PPI, and I peeping.
Oh, you've got a PPI.
Yeah. Is that right?
Yeah.
I
Okay.
thought it was urine-based. I'm so relieved.
Relieved.
Great news. Oh, it's been a strange
I feel like
week.
a fat kid at a sports day. You go, well done, Steve. Will you understand the joke?
I don't think you can say that anymore.
Sorry, I feel like a fat kid at a recreation
Can't
day.
say fat kid anymore. Big boned kid at a sports day. Just let's just leave it alone. It's been a difficult week. Guam. I only ever associated Guam with the Miss World competition. It's the only time I'd ever heard of it. I assume it's a small island just full of women in swimwear. In the Guam Parliament now, we're going to debate these missiles. I've got to get my nails done.
Yeah.
Anyway, it's been a strange week. So I might investigate PPI. Why not?
Yeah.
I can give the money to charity if it comes to it.
But what about if they get our email addresses, Frank? They won't leave us alone.
Well, I'm starting to think now, did I have a car accident that I haven't? Because I've had a lot of those. And I thought maybe I had a car accident in which I banged my head really hard. That's why I don't remember it.
Accident at work? I've had a few of those. No physical injury sustained, but
Well, I do know someone you can call about an accident at work.
oh, really?
If you need, yeah. I know you might not know these people exist, but yeah. And also, if you got any gold you want to sell.
What is that gold thing? Why did that become a thing? What do they send off the gold people? Do they send off necklaces?
You send off. I think you send off gold in
What
a sort
gold?
of jiffy bag.
in the
When
post.
you say gold, it's not there will be blood or whatever. I don't have gold in brown bags
There
in my
seems to
drawers.
be. We're talking about daytime television adverts.
Yeah.
There seems to be a theory that some people have got gold lying about their house.
And that they'd be happy to just post it.
Send us your gold.
I mean, who's watching daytime telly? Tutankhamun. Yeah, but it says you're old gold. And I thought, whoa, hold on. I don't have any old gold. What are you talking about? Oh, yeah, I've got those ingots. You know those ingots? Where did I put them? June, where did I put those ingots? Make any sense?
Absolute Radio.
Frank Skinner on Absolute Radio.
272 has got in touch.
Oh, yes?
Saying, and let's not forget the track your ancestry through DNA adverts.
Oh, yes.
So
Yes.
that's from Mark, yeah.
I've gone off tracking my ancestry since when I was approached by Who Do You Think You Are, which was many years ago. And they did a few phone calls, and then I never heard anything else. And apparently that can mean one of two things.
What?
That
There was no reply.
you're so dull, such a dull family, not worth bothering with. Or blood on the tablecloth.
Oh dear.
So I don't
hang
know
on.
which.
Absolute horror show.
Griff Rhys-Jones was on it,
That'd be a good station.
and one of his relatives was some sort of murderer, I think.
Yeah,
Or
well,
he
it might
killed
not be
someone.
murder, but they say usually it's a major. If it's a major scandal, they back off.
Well, Griff Rhys-Jones, I think he'd killed someone, and Griff Rhys-Jones is...
Griff Rhys-Jones has killed someone.
No, his relative did. And I think his response was, oh, great, thanks very much, who do you think you are? Which is how the show ended, which was one of my favourites.
Oh, that's really good.
So, Frank, you have never been on it. I think that's a shame.
What's that?
That you've never done Who Do
Sorry,
You Think
because
You
we
Are?
were talking about heroin earlier, and I thought you were back referring to that.
No.
I've never been on that either, can I say? No, I didn't get on it.
Oh, okay.
So it's for the best. My relatives keep telling me, I don't know what's gone on. What on earth has gone on in our family? 8, 12, 15. So I'll tell you what, here's a mystery, though. Here's a mystery that would have been a set piece, I would have thought, on Who Do You Think You Are?
Yeah.
I found a silver... I'm going to call it a silver slipper. Not made of silver, but a slipper with a sort of silver sheen. I'll say slipper, a lady's shoe,
Really?
Right.
in my garden.
Wow.
Now, we don't live near the road, and we don't have the kind of neighbours that throw their shoes over
Yeah.
the garden. I don't live next to people like that anymore.
And it was just the one shoe.
One shoe.
Just one shoe.
Cinderella's gone feral.
Yeah, I was thinking maybe it's an advert. If there was a production of Cinderella that was being staged by American newspaper delivery boys,
Oh, yes.
that might
Yeah.
explain it. If there's any Americans listening, does that still happen, that they go down the road
Yeah.
on a bike and they just throw the paper into the garden? Is that a real thing?
Yeah.
Are there any American newspaper boys listening? Probably. Almost
And so,
certainly.
Frank, so the silver
Could
shoe...
be an advert for a Long John Silver ballet.
Could be.
Was this front garden or back garden?
This was back garden as well.
Could you just explain what was the style of the shoe?
Well, I'm not very good on ladies' shoes.
Okay.
But it was, I'd call it's
Is it a
one of-
mule, a backless mule?
It's one of those that's got a hint of elastication. So you can just pull it.
It sounds absolutely disgusting.
Pull the shoe on and it fits neat. It's a young woman's shoe. I always associate
young woman?
disgusting footwear with the over 70s.
Okay.
I think it's the sort of thing on a summer's night, if you were going out to a party, you might wear.
Flat?
Flat. Yeah.
Okay. Okay.
I like how you're just horrified by the actual design of the shoe.
I just don't know
Honestly.
why it's in my garden now. It's not. We don't get stuff. We get, we get a fox bought some bird parts in. That's fair enough. But
Is it?
my mother-in-law said a fox probably bought it in. I thought, why? Why would a fox do that?
Got the Kwan of the fox world.
Exactly.
Maybe there's some kids listening to this who are thinking Operation Mess with Skinner's mind is working.
Yeah,
Yeah.
maybe that's possible. It's I wouldn't say I'm not lying awake worrying about.
No.
But perhaps, in the Islamic world, of course, it's tremendous abuse to throw your shoe at someone, if I remember right. Didn't
Yes.
a man throw his shoe at
George W. Bush.
George
yeah.
W. Bush?
Yes.
And, of course, they beat the hell out of Saddam Hussein's statue.
They do, yeah.
With the flip-flops.
Yeah.
It was flip-flopped to pieces.
I do that with...
Flip-flopped a verb.
I do that with photos of people I don't like.
Do you hit them with your shoe?
Yeah.
Yes, I do.
And you've
Well
got
and truly
some sharp shoes.
Well and truly sandalised.
I imagine that your shoes that you could throw if you had 3 shoes, which is it's an unhappy combination. But
Yeah.
if you had 3 shoes, I imagine you could throw them at a dartboard and get at least 2 of them to stick in.
Oh, I hope so.
No, I've never seen that done with stilettos. There ought to be a stiletto sort of
If I
dart.
was on Britain's Got Talent, that's what I'd do. That would be my act.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I'm guessing the judges would be relatively polite if you're still holding a couple of Louboutins at your side. I mean, what a way for David Williams to die. A stiletto just stuck in his forehead.
Be a really exciting end to Bullseye.
Yeah. Try and retain her at a camp in that demise. That would be the cry from the cheaper seats.
Yeah.
Absolute Radio.
Frank Skinner on Absolute Radio.
I was talking about the mystery shoe I found in my garden. If anyone has found anything interesting in their own garden, I'd love to hear from them.
We've had a lovely tweet from Luke Bucknell, who said he once tried to kick the head off a dandelion and his shoe went flying into next door's garden. He believes it's still there.
I like kick the head
Hold
off.
on. What happened to the dandelion?
Also, Frank, kick the head off a dandelion. That sounds like you're preparing to get very inebriated, I think. I'm going to kick the head off a dandelion tonight.
Do you think it was a dandelion that had gone into the sort of Brian May mode that they go into, or that it was still yellow?
Well, that's... Oh, yeah, when it goes a bit chrysanthemum. And
Yeah.
It's like that LA Girls Gone Wild or something. Dandelions Gone Wild. There was an MTV series. They go a bit mad, don't they? I know what you mean, Frank. You're looking at me really perplexed.
They go to seed.
Yeah, they go to seed, exactly.
Yeah.
I have well, I told you this story, I think. I lost a shoe at Chessington World of Adventures on Ramesses Revenge when I inadvertently got caught up in a photo call with Boyzone.
Trouble. Oh, you was in with Boyzone?
Well, Boyzone had got on the ride, and I didn't realise there was one
Together?
seat. Yes, and I got on the final seat. It's one of the best and worst things that's ever happened to me.
Was it a PR stunt? Were they just hanging out?
They were having their
Oh,
picture taken. It was a PR stunt. And I didn't know that I should have held back. So I just ran on, because I was next off to Boyzone, not realising this was a photo call for them. There was a picture somewhere of Boyzone and me looking mortified with one shoe.
I'd like to see that picture.
Yeah, still there, that.
I imagine a lot of those boy bands, they sort of travelled as a chain gang, didn't they? You didn't want your Zayn Malik escapees.
They'd have to go, everyone pair off.
I had, as you know, one of my passions on this show is a feature I like to call
Whatever happened to...
in which we talk about things that I haven't seen for ages and what happened to them. This week's
Whatever happened to...
is
Whatever happened to...
Ponta shadows at cinemas.
Yeah.
You know when people get up during the film and you used to see their shadow? That's it. What have they
Why
done?
don't they do that
Have they
anymore?
changed the angle of the projector, or is it raised higher? Is the seating lower? Have people
the
got shorter?
advent of digital? I don't know.
Is it still projected from the back?
Well, I believe so, but I think you're right. I think they've changed the seating so that it doesn't feel... Because it seems to be more like the Roman amphitheatre now, the design. Whereas before it was all on one level, maybe.
There must be... If there's any projectionists or cinema workers...
Yeah.
Why don't I see the shadows of people coming and going in the cinema anymore projected against the film? Yeah. Used to be quite a big...
Here's a question. Do you buy the superior seats as a matter of course?
I always imagine if I buy the superior seats, there'll be someone dangerous sitting in them when I get there. And this is because they're going to the boxing the other week, which is how boxing works. Most dangerous person gets the best seats.
Yeah.
So it puts me off a bit. Because I don't mind not sitting in my seat, but I don't want to buy an exclusive special seat. And then there's someone with neck tattoos sitting in it.
Frank, what about when you buy a superior seat and then the whole cinema's empty, though? Oh, come on, that's awful.
I don't know if I've ever done that.
I do it all the time. Thanks for joining me on my observation.
You tend to get it in Everyman cinemas, which is ironic that it's something so posh should be called the Everyman.
Yes. But do you buy the exclusive seats?
I have done, sometimes. If it's a really... For like the Star Wars, the new Star Wars films, I thought I'll treat myself.
Is there a new Star Wars film? So have I missed this? Oh, do you mean every time one comes out?
Yeah.
Oh, I didn't think they'd been going that long.
I thought you were joking then and saying as in because they're so ubiquitous. Is there a new Star Wars? Well,
you'll know when I'm joking because I usually laugh first.
Yeah, that's true.
That's how I... That's how I pull it off. Well, people I find in the 21st century are always looking for new ways to be annoying in the cinema. So I'm surprised this has lapsed as a tradition.
Yeah.
But help us out, you cinema know-alls.
Frank
Skinner
on Absolute Radio.
Absolute Radio.
I received a whatever happened to this week.
Oh, yeah?
From one of our...
Twitter?
Yeah, one of our loyal readers. And I like him because his avatar is... Do you remember the botched Spanish fresco that old woman had attempted to restore it?
I do.
That's his picture, and I like that.
The documentary was called The Fresco Fiasco, I remember.
Very good, Frank.
Nice.
He says...
That's what I drive.
Awake at 5 a.m. because of impending Armageddon and the onset of toothache, but am I despondent? Am I buffalo? The toothache has prompted a hashtag whatever happened to, tying string to the affected tooth and a door handle.
Yeah, no, this rings a bell, and we might have discussed this in the past,
did we?
but it used to be. I have done it to my own tooth. And it used to be a tradition that, you'd tie a piece of cotton or whatever round a loose tooth, is a way to do it, and then tie it to a door handle and slam the door and it rips the tooth out. I knew I had a friend lost, I'd say, 3/4 of his jawbone.
Yeah, I've only seen it. They did it in an episode in the televised version of The Adventures of Huckleberry Finn. That was the only time I ever saw it, and it looked absolutely barbaric.
I think they tar and feather as well in Huckleberry Finn, so let's not set up any trends we're not happy to follow through. Yeah, there were different times.
Yeah.
So did it do the trick when you had it done?
It came out, yeah. It's, sometimes they're just wobbly. They can be very annoying. I can't leave a wobbly tooth alone.
No,
even other people's.
Oh,
I'm always just messing about with it, seeing what it goes. So I mean, if you're listening at home, don't do it, please, on my say-so. I think the official Absolute... Hold on, I've got the manual. I know Absolute are okay with it as a method. Absolute 60s, 70s and 80s are okay with it. But then it goes out of fashion.
I had a whatever happened to, and I'm not sure if it qualifies.
Well, let's find out. If we're happy with it, I'll give you the jingle.
Cool. So it arose because I was trying to explain to my Australian wife a phenomenon, and I realised I hadn't had any clue. Whatever happened to the Walton sextuplets? The
I'm giving you that.
Oh, bless your heart.
I'm giving you that. The Walton sextuplets, who I think I might have interviewed once.
Really?
Yeah. It used to be at the time, I think. I mean, I'm no expert on fertility, but I think in the early days of IVF that they chucked them all in, chucked all the eggs. They put all their eggs in one basket.
Oh, is that where you got that?
And then when people started having 6 kids and 7 kids at a time, I think basically they got a call from the Social Security saying, "Can you stop doing this? It's wiping us out." So that's you used to get this multi-birth thing.
Yeah, and they were sort of so iconic in my childhood. I sort of have such strong memories of just the dad looking permanently frazzled.
Yes, and they got nappy adverts and all that.
Yeah.
That's how they used to make up the support money. I think they used to do lots of adverts for baby things.
I've got to be honest, I didn't know that, which is unusual for me. And I thought you were referring in a very modern way to the Waltons, the TV family.
I think they were of varying ages.
Yeah, they were. I don't think they were all the same age. The actors probably were.
I like the idea that they were sextuplets, but it was never referred to. I think in hillbilly society, it's frowned upon.
This is
Frank Skinner, Absolute Radio.
You were asking readers to text in with weird stuff they found in their garden. 361 is just texting saying, some years ago we found a plastic ornamental duck in our garden and kept it, image attached. And then 2 minutes later he said, sorry, couldn't send image.
Oh, we'll never know what that duck looks like. Oh. Have we heard from Beth Jordash? Google it.
Yeah.
This is
Frank Skinner, Absolute Radio.
I interviewed Ali G this week. That's what Al Gore is calling himself now.
Oh yeah. I mean,
it's after the young vote.
I'm pretty impressed. I'm a little bit jelly bags as well.
Are you?
Well, I love Al Gore. There's something... I mean, I was going to say there's something very senatorial about him, but that's not surprising.
Yeah, I should say it was Al Gore, not Ali G. I was being flippant.
Can I ask a bit basic the question, a bit shallow, but is he attractive in the flesh?
I think he looks clean. Looks very clean.
Lovely.
I thought if something happened and I had to lick him to get moisture, I'd be all right with that.
What's happened?
You know, sometimes a friend of mine once had a terrible... he went out on a massive drinking spree and then he got lost. And then he was out long enough to get the resulting thirst that you get when you've been drinking.
Oh, yeah.
And he had a panic in his still drunkenness that he was going to die of thirst. So he licked condensation off someone's car windscreen.
Wow.
And the alarm went off on the car and he had to run away. Imagine this car windscreen. No, it was a bit like it was like Frost Nixon in here in the week. Well, obviously I didn't mention Frost because it doesn't exist anymore, according to
No. According to Big Al.
It was more like if there'd been a Dodd Nixon interview.
Oh, yeah.
With Ken Dodd interview.
Well, I heard from observers that it was a bit of a bromance.
I think he said to, I said, look, what do I call you? Because in the film, he's got a new film out.
And it's just so he could say, you can call me Al. Is that why you said that?
Well, I just thought, I should mention he has got a new film that opens next Friday called An Inconvenient Sequel. But I said, what do I call you? Because in the film, there's a man that calls him Mr. Vice President, even though he hasn't been Vice President for whatever.
Oh, in an alternate reality.
Yeah, 15 years or so. So I said, he said, oh, no, that's an American thing. He said, you know, I said, well, what, Mr. He said, Mr. Gore's fine. You can call me Al if you like. Oh. And of course I got a slight, it's quite cool calling Al Gore Al. Yeah. And then I said, you know what, I'm going to stick with Mr.
Really?
I don't know why, I just fancied it. Doing an interview when you say, so Mr. Gore, there's something I like about it. It's a bit like doing an interview for someone claiming benefit, calling them Mr.
Yes, I like it. It's very old-fashioned.
But I was surprised that he was quite an informal, nice chap. Very early on, he said to me, "You're a stand-up comedian?" He said, "I used to share a room with a. Actually, he's more sort of he's more like from down south." And he said, "I used to share a room with a stand-up comedian." He said he became a stand-up comedian later. I said, "Did you know he was? Could you tell he was going to be one?" Not at all. He said he was very interested in medieval Italian literature. And I said, I find that's a very common combination among stand-up comedians. And he said, really? And I said, no. And he said, you caught me out early on. And he was all right with it. He was all right with having his leg pulled. So, yeah, I liked him, actually.
Oh, I love him. I think Ali G is a lovely little addition to your Rolodex.
Yeah, he's very big on the global warming thing.
Yeah.
I'm going to call that his thing.
He's in the global warming chair.
Yeah. And so I interviewed him we're doing a show, I'll tell you now. There's a show on Absolute Radio, 7 o'clock tomorrow night, Sunday. With me and G, the G-Man. I'm now calling him.
I can't wait.
So yeah, I like. There's jokes. There's jokes as well.
Did you get some jokes in there?
There's jokes as well as
Has he got
a hint of Armageddon.
GSOH?
I mean, it's. I know it's a bit strange this weekend because you're thinking we might not be around long enough to experience true global warming. That maybe we go in fast track on the end of the world. But let's hope that is.
Does he talk about Donald?
He loves Donald Trump. No, he doesn't love him.
Okay.
What did he call him, Sarah?
Frank's asking the producer.
Yeah.
I'm doing the subtitles here. Frank asks the producer, leans over to her.
Oh, I can't remember. It was some word like...
it was a rude word, maybe.
No, not rude.
Oh.
It's gone.
Okay.
It's gone. This is... If they're going to employ 60-year-old... I think Absolute only employ 60-year-old presenters so that I'll forget the names of stuff, and then they'll get loads of 50 pence a time text coming in correcting me.
Nice. It's a nice conspiracy theory.
It's a money spinning way of using the elderly.
Yeah.
At last, there's hope for us.
You're listening to the Frank Skinner podcast from Absolute Radio. Want your Frank fix a little sooner? Listen live every Saturday from 8 a.m. on Absolute Radio. Across the UK on digital radio, mobile apps, and in London and the South East on 105.8 FM.
Absolute Radio.
This is Frank Skinner on Absolute Radio with Emily Dean, and Steve Hall is with us today. You can text the show on 81215, follow the show on Twitter at Frank on the Radio, or email the show via the Absolute Radio website.
Now, obviously,
that's www/http.
Or you can write to us.
Yeah, right.
What about in the days when you wrote to people? I used to write to Swap Shop.
I'd love to get a letter. If we got a letter, Sarah, I'm asking if we got a letter, what would happen? Do we have a pigeonhole?
Yes.
Yeah.
We get them sometimes.
Turns out we got a pigeonhole.
Absolute Radio, one Golden Square, London.
You can send it via snail mail.
Oh, yeah. I only found out that existed last week, of course. Yes, 1 Golden Square. What's the postcode?
W1F for Foxtrot.
W1F for Foxtrot?
9DJ.
9DJ.
Oh, DJ!
Nice.
Can you pick your own personalised? This is the new thing. It used to be number plates, and now it's postcode.
Well, maybe,
I wonder if
interesting.
it's 10 Downing Street's like SW1 1MP.
It might be back in the Chris Evans days. He might have bought that.
Mine is NW3 CON.
Don't tell people.
No, not really. I'm not going to tell people.
Mine's
that.
DIVA.
Very good.
There you go.
So,
Steve Hall.
Mine's LOSER.
No, Steve. No. You jumped on my gag. No, not really.
So, obviously, I'm always delighted to be here because it means that either Alan or
Well, it
Gareth
sounds like
is
you're
here.
delighted to be anywhere you get paid, judging by your last remark.
Yeah.
He's actually doing very well, Steve. He's one of these eccentric millionaires.
Yeah.
So I had a proper idiotic eureka moment.
Now, let me explain to any new readers that idiotic eureka moments, like last week I said, it's when you realise something very, very late in the day that you should have got ages ago. Like I very recently worked out that cannon and ball is the sort of pun on that common juxtaposition of the cannon,
The cannon and the
then
ball.
the ball they put at it.
And moi aussi.
By the way of ammunition. Pardon?
Moi aussi. As me also, as the French say,
Yeah.
because I didn't know that either, Frank.
No, anyway,
And-
what's yours?
Well, we'd actually had another one. Mike from Harrogate.
No, I'm
emailed
getting the drinks in.
Oh, that's a first.
Mike from Harrogate had never realised that brunch is an amalgam of breakfast and lunch.
That.
And he said that his family have been humiliating him for it.
That's a deal breaker.
That is a cracker.
I'd find that, I'd struggle if that was my partner.
But my one, I'm not
Wow.
sure if
But
this is...
Cannon and ball is pretty obvious
Yeah.
once you know it.
Yeah, it's true.
I'm not sure if this is a valid idiotic eureka moment or not. But my wife told me that I have been possibly misunderstanding...
We don't have a jingle for this. We should get an idiotic eureka moment.
Yeah. Yeah, boss.
This'll do.
So my wife told me that the joke, why did the chicken cross the road to get to the other side, is actually about the afterlife. That it is, rather than it being an anti-joke, rather than it being that it's a joke that the chicken has decided to end it all, to see what lies beyond.
Oh, I see.
And that why did the chicken cross the road to get to the other side? Because obviously the first thing that will happen to the chicken is some kind of splatting incident with a vehicle.
Yes.
And so that joke, and that blew my mind.
Well, there are many
So it's a
things
kind
here.
of okay.
I don't think it's up there with cannon and ball.
No, well, yeah, I mean, I wouldn't dare. I wouldn't dare.
No, but because the idea is it's blatantly obvious.
Well, that's the thing. So it was being presented to me
Yeah,
as if
you
it
tell
was,
'em, boss.
as if it was blatantly obvious. So I was thinking, have I been a ruddy fool?
No, you haven't been a ruddy fool. It's quite a weird existential thing.
I've never heard of that before. I like the idea of it. I like an analytical approach to
Yeah.
life.
Yeah.
It could be true, I suppose. I think it's quite... I don't think it's an
Good.
anti-joke. I think it's quite a good joke. Why did the chicken cross the road? You think of 1,000,001 reasons associated with chickendom, and then it's just he just wants to cross over like everybody else.
I find it quite a depressing joke.
Do you?
Yeah. I'd feel really depressed when people say
Had you heard it before, Steve? Said it. Oh, you knew it? Oh, OK. Do you think we've got any listeners who thought,
Yes.
hey, that's a good joke? Why did the chicken... I'm going to try that at the pub tonight.
There are good I like...
Now that's an idiotic eureka moment.
Someone hadn't. Has anyone not heard why did the chicken cross the road?
I mean,
oh, come on, Frank.
on. What about my dog's got no nose? How does it smell? Terrible. Is there people at home that think, hey... So the problem with that joke, you need an associate.
Yeah.
You need someone who's going to say, how does it smell?
Yeah, boss, I'll say that.
Yeah.
You're unveiling your new character.
Well, this is my new character, which is when I'm like the henchman for the mafia boss.
Yes.
Frank, Sharon Baker got £2,500 back from PPI.
Wow. But is she real or is she a PPI
Well, this is
reclaim
what's worrying
company
me now. We are sounding like these ads
decoy?
now.
Yeah. Has she been in any car accidents she's got money for? What about if you had that double whammy on your way to the PPI place and you're in a car crash? Double whammy.
Oh, wow.
Wow. Can I say don't get in a car crash?
Why did the chicken cross the road to stage an insurance job to pretend
Why
to
did
be
the
hit by a
chicken
car?
cross the road? Because it was on its way to the PPI place. What about that? Do they insure animals, PPI?
No.
Don't they always insure... They should insure body parts. You think animals?
Well, I don't think they exist anymore, PPI. That's the point.
No. Oh, sorry, I've just gone into it. I forgot I hadn't pressed the music button. I'm just having the ordinary conversation with you in between the song. Oh, dear, it's all gone a bit Capital Radio.
Absolute Radio.
Frank Skinner on Absolute Radio.
We've just had an excellent idiotic eureka moment. They've not given a name. They said, my sister and I both thought a man was going to a place specifically called Mower Meadow, not to Mower Meadow.
It could have been named after Patrick Mower, the popular actor from the 1970s. Mower
take your
Meadow.
word.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, I worked with him, Frank.
Oh, yeah. I forgot.
Right.
Patrick,
remember that,
Patrick
Frank?
Mower sounds like it's sort of someone from Birmingham saying Patrick Moore.
Mower.
Possibly not. Have
Okay.
I besmirched?
No. You just get on with it.
Well, so we were on last week's show. We discovered that a man in an advert you enjoy is an old mate of mine from the comedy circuit, Rob Tofield.
I didn't know he was an old mate. I think you're building your partner, I think he's a brilliant actor. You think I'm going to hire him for something and think, well, I might as well bring his mate along us. Some sort, I don't know. Like when they transport a thoroughbred horse, they take a donkey and they keep it at the stable as company.
What if I'm your donkey, Frank?
Oh, no.
I'd be happy to be your donkey. What a lovely stable.
You can be my donkey. I'll be your thoroughbred racehorse. Elvis Presley there with You Can Be My Donkey here on Absolute Gold.
I think he might have been strung out when he sung that one. Anyway, Steve.
So my friend Rob, my best friend Rob, listened to the show and has crafted a very funny video in response to...
Well, I've just watched a bit, because I didn't know about this, and Steve has showed me this video. Basically, what I said, this guy... I don't think he says anything in the advert, but he does one look having won on online betting. And bear in mind, this is a desolate situation of a coach driver standing by his coach in a deserted pub, a deserted football ground car park as the game goes on behind the walls. And he just does a great look, and I think I just know he's a brilliant actor from that one look. I just know. You can tell he's a brilliant actor. But I did point out the fact that he was rotund as well.
Yeah.
That came up, that cropped up in the conversation.
Once or twice.
Yeah.
He's a big lad.
So I've just I didn't get to the end of it because the last record was shorter than the video. But I think it was a very funny video, but I did find myself feeling bad about it as well.
You?
So it's had a double whammy effect. It's made him look like a clever... self-deprecating, funny bloke, whilst inflicting some punishment on me.
On the bullies.
Well, I think all the things that make him a good actor in that advert are in that video that he's made, because it's just really small, a couple of really nice looks. There's a twinkle to it, so I don't think he feels too bad.
The donkey's talking him up.
Yeah.
It's like Shrek. Yeah. That's the combo, isn't it?
It says it dawns on him.
I'm the
slow
voice of Eddie Murphy.
I'm like the princess. I've seen what's good in the ogre's bloke, and I have to put up with donkey as part of it.
Who am I, Lord Farquhar?
I think you might be Lord Farquhar. You take your heels off for a second.
Imagine if that was my look-alike.
Who is a Lord Farquhar? I think Simon Cowell's got a bit of the Lord Farquhar look-alike about
that's
him.
right. Bit of Roger Rees. Google it, young people.
Oh, Roger Rees.
Yeah, remember
Nicholas Nickleby.
Yeah, very good, thanks.
Oh, I saw him at Stratford in, I think it was 1980.
I saw him at one of my parents' dinner parties.
Did you? I didn't see him at any of my parents' dinner parties for two reasons. One, they didn't know any actors, and two, they never had dinner parties. In fact, we didn't always have dinner. I'll be straight with you.
Absolute Radio.
Frank Skinner on Absolute Radio.
We're all familiar with the work of Mariah Carey on this show.
Oh, yes.
I mean, Frank actually incorporates one of her phrases as his sign-off.
Yeah, anyone who listens to this, you might catch the end of this show when you're waiting for the next person to come on. And I always end the show by saying, bring on the feathers. That is a reference to I think it was a New Year's Eve
in Times Square,
in Times Square gig that Mariah Carey did, which went so badly. I think technically as much as anything else.
Everything.
At the end, she just went... Bring on the feathers, and they brought on these big fans. And she did one of those big showbiz.
Moulin Rouge. It was a sort of exasperated last resort instruction.
I mean, I
wasn't
can't explain it every week. So there must be people who think, but they probably think it's a reference to former Secretary General of the Trade Union Congress, Vic Feather, that I'm going to bring his family on.
Undoubtedly, I would say.
Yeah, but they all think, Vic Feather and his family are coming on. Bring on the feathers. I wonder what he's got to say about the modern situation.
Yeah.
Long dead, I fear, Vic Feather. He was once the subject of a topical gag on Are You Being Served?
Wow.
Vic Feather. Which is, in a way, the ultimate accolade.
I love that. That's up there with and other things I never thought I'd hear on the show this morning. Those are often my favourite moments. So, Mariah or Mimi...
Can I ask you a question? Who are the superstar trade union leaders of the 21st century?
Because there was Eric... What was his name, Frank? Eric
Heffer went on to be a Labour.
No, there was another one.
Bob Crow, but I think he's no longer with us, I believe.
You used to think when I was growing up, trade union leaders were quite important figures on the telly.
Eric Hall?
Jack Jones.
Not Eric Heffer. Eric Hall? Was there an Eric Hall?
Eric Hall was
a monster.
Football agent.
I'm going to remember. There was a Scouse Eric someone.
Anyway,
this is boring. But however, what isn't is that...
If only more radio shows would fess up to that.
Well, I self-critique.
No,
Why
I think
not?
it's a good thing. I
stop myself mid-flow.
So many links when people just say what the time is and what they're going to play next.
Just
and
stop
they should
yourself.
say, sorry, I know anyone could do this.
It was a self-aware moment, Frank. No, what I was saying was boring, so I'm moving on to something more interesting.
But if you're just going to do the weather and the time and what's on next, don't they ever stop and say, why am I here? Why am I even here? Anyway, sorry.
This is boring.
It's not my business. I don't want to put anyone out of work.
Mariah, nicknamed Mimi, she had an album, The Emancipation of Mimi.
Oh, did she?
Yes, I remember that. Yeah.
I imagine she's very me.
It's her sort of Jean Valjean moment. And there's been a few rumblings on the socials about her recently, just about her lack of enthusiasm with performances. She's in the middle of a world tour. She's got a Las Vegas residency. And she performed her song Honey, which I know you two will be familiar with.
Oh, yeah.
And have you seen the video for Honey?
Well, I've saw a dance sequence with
Sailors?
Mariah.
Yeah.
Well, yes, there were sailors involved. At first, I thought they were medical people because there's a time-honoured tradition in show business with a sort of diva, is that at one point she's raised up and carried by a lot of muscular young men,
like she's on a chaise longue.
This looked like, when you see the elderly being rescued from flooding, it was like she was lifted up. And with like not knowing quite where she was. I mean, there was no sense of dance or performance or look at me. There was nothing. She was just being picked off and she was being moved. It was a removals job. It was, if you had a house where someone you had there was Mariah Carey, it was the blokes coming in and me saying, watch your head against the doorway. It was like that. She just hadn't joined in at all with the whole lifting, smiling, dancing process. And that saddened me, to be honest, I must say.
Yeah.
I think Mariah Carey, I call her Me No Carey.
Frank Skinner.
On Absolute Radio.
Absolute Radio.
So we were talking about Mariah Carey's lack of effort. This had passed me by at the time, so I was watching it for the first time the other day. And it is staggering. I mean, she is staggering.
Yeah.
But it's...
Well, it was a physical animation of, like you sometimes see I don't know if you've ever experienced this, but I have, when a record company executive has sent some music, you sometimes see it in films as well, and they're hearing a track for the first time in an office environment.
Yeah.
And they just sort of nod their head and tap the desk. It was that level of effort.
I didn't think there was that much effort. I honestly thought there was less. When me and David Baddiel first played Three Lions to Terry Venables, the then manager of England, and he tapped his car keys on the thing as he listened and then said to me, it's a real key tapper, which I think was a new word. Honestly, I'm not
sure that's a thing, is it? Key tapping.
I am not exaggerating. I honestly think that he gave it more than she did. If she's got a long residency, that makes a bit of sense. If she's on at Las Vegas every night for weeks, she's probably just got bored. But you're not allowed to get bored.
But also, when they carry her, sometimes she has an actual chaise longue. She didn't in that instance that they put her on. I've seen those. I've gone quite deep. But that was a bit like me on the sofa, I felt, the way, when you slump down at the end of the day and you think, oh, I'm knackered. That's what it was like.
There was also a shot of her singing where, I don't know if she forgot, but she started whistling instead.
Yeah.
Now, I love a bit of whistling in a song. I don't know Mariah Carey's back catalogue that well. I'd be surprised to find it's a thing she often does.
Yeah. Well, it's like, watching it reminded me of old episodes of Quantum Leap. Looking at her, it was like Sam Beckett had leapt into her body. And there was always...
Was that the name of the man in Quantum Leap? It's Sam Beckett?
Yeah.
Her played by?
Played by Scott Bakula.
Lovely.
Okay.
Yeah.
I've never seen Quantum Leap.
But he would always, at the end of it, he'd leap into the body of someone new at the end of each episode, and there'd be a moment
I
as he
used to live like that when I was on tour. Sorry, everyone. Yeah. Well, I mean, the thing is with Mariah Carey, I mean, full respect to her, she's an enormous star.
Careful. None of us are 22 anymore, dear.
She's brilliant in that online betting advert on Sky.
Imagine if she did that.
Because I have worked with her. Let's
All
not
right,
forget.
Mariah Mundo.
You remember I married Mariah Carey.
Imagine Mariah Carey. Did I get ppi.com? I'd love it if she did that.
Did you know I married Mariah Carey?
I did not know.
Did you?
Yes, I played the part of a vicar on SMTV.
I do remember that.
And she married...
with Anton Deck, yeah.
She married Deck McPartlin, and I conducted the service. But you know what? She didn't turn up to rehearsal, but I think that's because she didn't want to be around us very long. But she gave it everything.
Did she?
She performance. It was in the days when Mariah was Matriah. Matriah Carey before she became Minnow Carey.
Yeah.
And she was very professional, as you expect from Americans. She turned up and she did it properly. So I'm glad I caught her in the golden age.
Yeah. And, Frank, she's named after a vehicle that I mourn, because you never really see it anymore.
What, the Black Mariah?
Yeah.
I mean, I don't know if I ever saw one. I knew, in case you don't know, it was like the police van that used to collect, like, rowdies.
You sometimes see it on old footage.
Yeah, exactly. I don't think she was named after that.
Do you think not?
A British police vehicle associated with crime and disturbance.
And her friend Paddy Wagon.
Seems unlikely.
Yeah.
It's sad that it's come to this for Mariah Carey. I have little sympathy, I must say.
Well, nor does her choreographer, and we'll get on to what he said.
Yeah, exactly. Choreographer news. Next.
This is
Frank Skinner, Absolute Radio.
So Anthony Burrell, who I believe is Mariah's choreographer,
Oh, okay.
also the name of a rather fabulous artist.
Is it?
Do you know those posters which are work hard and be nice to people, I believe? He does those.
Oh, I've got one of those.
She violates both those instructions, as far as I'm aware.
Yeah, exactly.
His name is also Anthony Burrell. Anyway, the point is, this Anthony Burrell, this choreographer, is not happy. He's been fired.
Yes, I think he was fired after the debacle that led to Bring on the Feathers.
Yeah. I love how much knowledge you have.
Yes, exactly.
Despite the fact
Do you think he's ever heard of former General Secretary of the Trades Unions Congress, Vic Feather, this choreographer? I'm so certain he hasn't heard of him.
He described this behaviour as typical Mariah. When she doesn't want to do something, she doesn't do it. And he does acknowledge, he said, it's taking away her star. This behaviour. What do you think of that concept, guys?
I like the idea of taking away her star.
Like he's a teacher.
Well, I don't like the idea. Yeah, but it's her star. If you imagine her star, it's sort of deteriorating around the edges and getting smaller.
Yeah.
And I'd like to see Mariah's small star. Because I think that would teach her a lesson. Because I have no tolerance for this kind of thing. If you sign up to a long run of gigs, you do a long run of gigs. If you don't want to do them, don't sign up. It's a general lack of commitment.
Well, she's one of the most famous people whose songs I don't know. But she's kind of...
Well, I'd put her there as well. She's... You know when they have reality stars? She's what I call one of my really stars. So people say, you know, she's one of the biggest selling artists of all time. And I say, really? Yeah, I know nothing. I could not name a Mariah Carey song, but I know she's an enormous star.
Yeah, she
but it's
is.
happened over there somewhere.
No. It happens over here.
No, when I say over there,
Oh,
I
I
mean
see.
metaphorically, somewhere that isn't my life.
I thought you were like
yeah.
a 70s man talking about America.
No.
Over there somewhere.
The whole Mariah Carey phenomenon has happened over there, wherever there is.
Yeah,
Yes.
yeah. It's like, so when she's famously a diva, it's going to go, why? I don't understand what's she done
do you
to
think-
deserve being like a diva?
Oh, I see. Well, I suppose, look, all I would say in her defence...
That was very Simon Cowell.
Well, look.
Look.
All I would say in her defence is that I respect the fact that she's not going the way of the majority of these stars, Madonna, etc., which is the older I get, the more kind of desperately agile I'm going to get. And I'm going to prove to everyone and show them how fit I am. And I just like, she's not going down the Iggy Pop route, because you can end up looking a bit like that. And she just thought, no, I want to go to the I have given up shop, clothes-wise.
Madonna and Iggy Pop essentially ended up with the same body.
Yeah, essentially.
And they look like a
that's-
William Blake painting, both of them. All the tendons
know.
are now on the
Yeah.
outside. They're like the
this is the
Pompidou
fitness.
Centre.
This is the choice you have as a woman. It gets hard as you get older. Do I want to look like Iggy Pop or Mariah?
Well,
I'm
it's
going to go
not just
Mariah.
women.
Yeah, this is true.
But, I don't mind her... I don't mind her growing old naturally.
Gracefully, yeah.
But that's no excuse. I've known some great big dancers. I was at the Grand Ole Opry in Glasgow once,
Extraordinary.
and they played Achy Breaky Heart, and 3 women got up. And how do you say this now? They were
Yeah.
big. They were big women.
Yeah, they love their curves.
I read a book about Samuel Taylor Coleridge, and he was on a voyage with a big woman, and he says she's a woman who would have wanted elbow room on Salisbury Plain.
Wow.
And they were like that, and they were the most beautiful, delicate dancers. I mean, lovely. So there's no excuse. She can't use that, I'm afraid.
Okay.
This is
Frank Skinner, Absolute Radio.
Have you ever done a thing where you've tried as palpably poorly as she did? Have you ever phoned it in?
Never.
Really?
Never. I don't have that in my game.
Yeah, I would say that's true of you.
If I get in a
Professionally.
lift with 3 people, I need at least one good laugh before I can get out.
I'd say that's true
I'll
of you.
just go up and down there all day until I get that laugh.
Well, sometimes if I'm at Frank's, and he might go up to do a bit of work upstairs, and he, even then, he tries to leave on a laugh if it's just me and Kathy. And I think, no, he's going to come back in because he'll want to get that laugh a bit better.
I hate the idea of the bare minimum thing. It's horrible.
Yeah.
Why, Steve? Got someone to own up to? No, I have no sympathy.
I know what I mean, but I adopt that approach to things like domestic tasks, for example.
Oh, well, that's all right.
Yeah.
I mean, gardening, I do the bare
Do you do bare
min.
minimum?
I mow the lawn.
Okay. Yeah.
I'll tell you what I've done is I've adopted an approach to weeds, which is, I don't know whether I did this for bad, but my approach to weeds is, some of them are quite beautiful. I mean, they're as good as the flower. If you leave them and let them fully develop, they look pretty good. So that's
Yeah.
how I've got round it. No, that's not the way forward. That is a bit me no caring.
You're listening to the Frank Skinner podcast from Absolute Radio. Want your Frank fix a little sooner? Listen live every Saturday from 8 a.m. on Absolute Radio. Across the UK on digital radio, mobile apps, and in London and the South East on 105.8 FM.
Absolute Radio.
This is Frank Skinner on Absolute Radio with Emily Dean and Steve Hall. You can text the show on 81215, follow the show on Twitter at Frank on the Radio, email the show via the Absolute Radio website.
Frank, what about 865? Hi, Frank. It may be jackdaws or crows who dropped the shoe in your garden. A local family of jackdaws have dropped cigarette butts and a large piece of dyed red cut hair in our garden. Are you sure
dear,
that's not goths hanging out in your garden?
That sounds like a worry, doesn't it?
That's from Terry.
We have got a magpie nest I told you about.
Yeah.
And it is a sparkly shoe. That never occurred to me. Could a magpie carry a woman's grown-up shoe?
They can carry all sorts.
I know.
Yeah.
If those dancers in Las Vegas can... Well, anyway. She married... One thing I do know about Mariah, and now I'll probably find I'm wrong, because often the one thing I know about people turns out to be incorrect, but she married the head of Sony Music. Is that
Tommy
right?
Mottola, yeah.
That is a sort of belt and braces approach to success, isn't it? Be very talented and also marry the head of Sony
Well, I think
Music.
she was his discovery.
Okay. Did it turn out well?
No.
Okay.
Well, she had to write an album called The Emancipation of Mimi.
Oh, is that
I mean, you don't want your ex releasing that album. That doesn't say good things.
Is it me, as in me?
Yeah.
Because I feel that has been truly emancipated and released into the wild. Or is Mimi, is it a fictional character? Is it like Sergeant Pepper, Mimi?
I think it's her nickname.
Oh, I wonder why.
Yeah, there you go.
Okay.
Fascinating.
Anyway,
Yes.
God bless her. That's what I say.
And she's not the only person in the news for not trying very hard this week.
Oh, yeah.
I don't know if you saw Simon McCoy
Yes.
and his piece on surfing dogs.
It's been good for him. Simon McCoy is... I watched that BBC 24-hour news thing.
Oh, do you?
If Sky News dips, I think, I'll go to BBC News. Sky News always looks like they got the light. They've put more money in the meter. It looks a bit brighter and more interesting.
That's because they need lots of lights on Kay Burley.
Yeah, 24
What about
hours.
when someone on one of those 24-hour newses, the BBC was watching a Rudy show? Did you see that this week?
Yes.
Is that right?
Someone had a
Shocking
Rudy
behaviour.
show on one of the
Rudy
TV
show?
screens. I don't
It turned
want
out
to be
it
more
was
explicit.
Anna Paquin in a vampire programme that she
you
does.
could see it,
but
you could see naked.
You could see everything.
What,
On the news.
They were butt naked?
They were naked.
Oh, no, I don't want that on the news.
No. Anyway,
Well, it
sorry.
wouldn't have happened on the BBC. Was that on Sky?
No, it was on the BBC.
On the BBC, it's a bit like going to a library.
Yeah.
That's the feeling of it. It's good, and you're going to find stuff out, but it is like a library.
Yeah.
So I'd seen him many times, but I didn't know his name, Simon McCorkindale. And then he introduced a clip, well, it was a feature about a surfing competition for dogs.
Yes.
It was what I believe they call B-roll footage. So they would have just bought that in from some agency, wouldn't they? And just ran it as a story.
Yeah.
I personally, I thought the sight of dogs on surfboards was remarkable.
Yeah.
But he was derisory, it has to say.
Yes.
That's what he said.
He started it by saying, just bear in mind, it is August.
And it's because it's a proper silly season
That's
story.
as close as they get to a time check on BBC News.
It's
it
like Romans.
moves so slowly. You just get the month.
Apparently, in other countries, they don't. In other countries, obviously, not everyone calls it silly season, so they call it silly season in America. But apparently, in Holland, they refer to it as cucumber time.
Oh, okay.
So because it's the
I'm
sort
glad
of-
you told me that.
Is it silly
if I was
season,
in a
though?
club in Amsterdam and someone said, right, it's cucumber time, I'd be terrified.
Also, I'm not sure it is silly season. We're on the brink of nuclear destruction. I don't call that silly season.
Well, there's many variations of dark and shade in silly season. I think that's at one end, and the dogs on the surfboards at
Okay.
the other. I know which I'd rather watch on the news.
What about when he has to say, this does not look like a walk in the park? Someone's written a pun for him,
Yes.
and he's absolutely furious.
Yeah, and it's the bit at the end where he just goes, "That's a shame. We've run out of pictures."
Yeah, but I gotta say, who does he think he is? They have one job, unless you count reading out loud as a job. They have one job, newsreaders, and that's reading in the correct tone to fit the story. So if it's a disaster, they say it like this. If the economy's gone up, then they lighten it. That's it. That's the skill, the whole skill. Other than that, they are sitting down reading out loud. And it wasn't prepared to play the game. It's Mariah all over again.
Well, he's quite a maverick. He's got form with this as well. A
Has he?
lot of the famous things he's at the centre of. So when Thomas Schaffernecker, the weather man, flipped the rod.
Oh, yeah.
That was in response to Simon McCoy. Simon McCoy was giving him a slightly sarcastic build-up.
Troublemaker.
He is.
Ollie Murs.
Before the birth of one of the royal babies, they had him stationed outside the Lindo wing.
Oh, yeah.
And it was Simon McCoy doing there is no news and being incredibly sarcastic.
What's he still got it employed, this man?
He's an absolute maverick.
The real McCoy, I'm calling him.
Absolute Radio.
Frank Skinner on Absolute Radio.
523 has texted with another Simon McCoy example. Simon McCoy was also the man who stood reading the headlines with a stack of A4 paper instead of an iPad.
Oh, we did that show on our... We did that show? We did that show on our Frank.
What do you mean?
Well, I got my words the wrong way around, so I decided to make a virtue of it and continue.
But what was I was going
We featured that story on our show.
That's his. I forgot we had a show.
He was going old school, wasn't he? He was making a deal.
What they should do is get him to do a feature, to introduce a feature about Mariah Carey not bothering anymore, and just see if he thinks, hold on a minute.
Yeah.
Get her on as a guest. That's going to be the most laid-back piece of television.
But is he trying to be a sort of self-styled, colourful character?
I think
copyright Frank Skinner.
I think so, because he also, pre-election, he interviewed a Tory MP, and they were doing the strong and stable thing, and he had a go at them. He had quite an entertaining pop at them for that. We were saying, it sounds like you're reading a script here. You're all saying strong and stable.
I can't work out whether you're pro or anti-McCoy, Steve.
I'm just fascinated by him.
Oh, okay.
But it's because Paxman did it for a while. There was when Paxman had to do the weather on Newsnight.
Yes, I remember that.
What I'm concerned about is, are we going to get a video from him this week with featuring his reaction to hearing this? Are we just going to get this every week?
Yeah, or him just being picked up by a load of sailors.
I think we can safely say he won't be bothered. I don't know. I mean, he wants to be careful. They could replace him with a female newsreader and save quite a lot of money. Hey, come on. I have often thought that the news, what it needs more than anything, is a live studio audience.
It's not appropriate, Frank.
I think it would be fine, because you'd get, when you got stories like that, but you'd work out whether they were worth doing or not from the response.
Yeah.
And I think, the oh no's and all that in the sad stories would really pump up the emotion. And also, you could have things like, shall we drop the serial killer story? It didn't go that well at 6 o'clock.
Would they have, rounds of applause, like when the Fonz would walk in and there'd be a round of applause? So if it was something, a hero, if Nelson Mandela was mentioned, everyone would go, hey!
Yeah, or if they talked about the war, people would go, whoa, when they started, and then they'd say Donald Trump, and you get some people cheering, some people boo, and
could you have
and people going, fight, 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 fight.
And also a sort of this would be a bit sick, but I was going to suggest the Gladiator style. Another one bites the dust, but that's not very nice.
No, maybe not.
No, but you could...
every time a famous person dies.
Yes, for the obituary section.
Cut to people with foam rubber hands in there.
And then they'd have to be a warm-up man for the news as well.
What you could give them is foam rubber sides, like the Grim Reaper. So if a celebrity dies... Yeah.
Oh, no.
Absolute Radio.
Frank Skinner on Absolute Radio.
Now, I was hoping to speak to Emily for some fashion advice.
Sure.
Well, it's not before time.
I thought you'd never ask, Steve.
Well, I've seen, it's been covered by a few of the news outlets, a fascinating development in the jeans world. A new jean with a zip that runs front and back and underneath.
I don't like the way you say it, and underneath.
Yeah, I didn't mean to make it sound quite so...
It's the jeans that... they start... So you would start undoing your zip right at the top of your waistband.
Yes.
At the front, which again is quite radical.
Yeah.
So it goes right to the top.
Yes.
Then it goes down underneath.
Down.
Down Pyrenean way. And it goes right the way round.
Not without an engagement ring.
And
as I call it, that area.
Well, you could put that on the zip.
My little special name for that place. And then round...
And then it comes right up and it unzips right at the back of the waistband.
Yeah.
So you can separate the two legs completely if you want. I mean, this all came too late for Long John Silver.
It's essentially a magnet shape, isn't it, really? It's a U shape, really.
And presumably, once you've completed unzipping it, both jeans just collapse to the floor.
Would you call them
of your
both jeans?
Yeah, well...
So it's
when a tree falls in the forest.
It's made me think... Oh, that hasn't happened for years. It's made me think for the first time that is that a plural? See, I thought of jeans as a single thing.
Right.
But you do say a pair of jeans, which suggests that each half of it is a gene.
Yeah.
Yes?
Sorry to sound like Simon McCoy. I just put my hand up. In fashion... I'm not in fashion, but I'm still of fashion. Do you understand? So, in fashion, of fashion, we would still refer to it as singular jean. Frank has a lovely jean.
All right.
You could dress that up with a jean.
Wow.
Yeah, we love
and
a jean.
And so these new clothes are jean splicing, effectively.
Yeah. I mean, I should
like
say...
they do with used cars when they put two...
Cut and... What is it called? Cut and shut.
Of course, it would be quite handy if... Say if you fell over and just damaged one leg. Nobody wants to walk around with ripped jeans. That would look terrible. So you don't have to buy a whole new pair of jeans.
Just one leg.
Replace that one leg.
Well, whoa. I mean, we should say these jeans, the first jeans were by this... Are you familiar with Vetements?
I'm not.
Vetements?
Yeah. Vetements,
I like it. I like any French word that absolutely spits in the face of consonants.
Vetements, which means clothing in French.
I'm unhappy with the vet. Can we drop the v?
No, Vetements is clothing in French. And Vetements...
Is that my car?
It's the clowns have arrived. The glitter horn is going.
Oh,
and
not anymore. I think he's learned his lesson. Have a break there, shall we?
Frank
Skinner
on Absolute Radio.
Absolute Radio.
We were talking about French fashion house Vetements and these jeans. And Vetements is a
jean.
The jean. Yeah, you're right, Frank.
I'm
just speaking like you people.
Would you buy a trouser?
Absolutely.
Oh, okay.
A trouser. Absolutely. Yeah. Trousers. Unless I'm buying them through the Sunday Express at the back pages, it's a trouser.
Oh, then it's slacks.
Yeah, with elasticated waistband.
Is it a pant?
It's never a pant.
Let's just stop it there.
No one says
buy an
pant.
underpant.
No one wears a pantsuit in this day and age. Anyway, Vetements. Frank.
Yeah, I'm listening.
No, you didn't do your horn.
Oh no, so I'm trying to give. I'm
okay,
not
trying to give it a
drive
rest.
anyone mad at home.
Okay.
And stop doing that. I want to hear what's happening with Vetements.
They're a Parisian design collective, and they're very well known for their quite ironic streetwear, but hugely expensive. For example, they popularised a T-shirt which was a DHL. It was yellow, and it had the DHL logo on it. And
what is DHL? I should know.
It's a delivery firm.
Yes.
So they're very into things like that, or they'll have a shirt and it will say staff and it will be £1,000 or
right.
something. Okay. So it's that sort of look. The creative director, who's now at Balenciaga, he had a bag, you know the blue IKEA bag? There was one of those he had, which was about £1,300.
Wow.
So their
That's
job...
the landscape.
Shut my mouth.
So they
I'm just giving you the landscape.
They design terrible clothes and sell it for lots of money. I think I could do this job.
Well,
I don't think we should say they design terrible
I don't think we should
clothes.
either.
I think we're designing
stop being such a basic bloke.
They're designing clothes with a twinkle.
Yeah. They're ironic
Which I find
clothes.
very handy.
They're ironic clothes.
It's irony wear.
What worries me about this whole setup of the zip that goes all the way is the slider, as I believe they call it on a zip. The bit, with the little metal bit that holds the teeth together that goes up and down. Once it's given this kind of free range, I'm worrying about the sort of debris it's going to be bringing back and forth the slider.
And,
I don't want this. Once I've been...
Goodness sake.
Once the slider's coming back round the front, I'm thinking, you know what, slider? Just stay back there. If you're going to go back there, stay back there.
Well, you know what I would say? Why the hatred for the waistband? I find the waistband a necessary ramp onto my torso.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah. Well, it's just on a basic health and safety level. It's sure there's a danger you'll zippity some kind of doodah if you're not careful.
Well, I like the idea of increasing the catchment area of things you can get caught in your zip.
Yes.
It used to be pretty monothematic, what you got caught in your
for
zip.
you, maybe.
But now I can get all sorts of stuff round.
Also, Frank,
round the rear of the
estate,
building,
the hatchback.
Yeah.
I find it's a bit Christina Aguilera as well.
It has got that feel.
Yeah.
Of course, the woman I saw modelling them is, inevitably the sort of woman who would look good in any
Iggy
kind,
Pop.
any jean.
Yeah.
I think who
That
could
was what
use
she was
them?
called, I think.
Like Lou Ferrigno would have used them.
Surely Farina.
Is it? I don't know.
Let's call the whole thing Hulk.
Well, all we know about him is what did he always have intact, Frank?
His waistband, regardless. And yet the way his trousers ripped, they had a raggedy bottom. Which was never clear how they got raggedy. It looked like the bottom part of his trousers had been in a small explosion in Rent-A-Ghost.
And the waistband was intacto.
Yeah, I think the lower trouser was done by the wardrobe person from Rent-A-Ghost. Explosions expert in brackets. And that's how the Hulk ended up. God bless him, though.
This is
Frank Skinner, Absolute Radio.
398 has said gene splicing. Nice work.
Oh, okay. Why?
Did someone say gene
I said gene
splicing?
splicing,
Well,
so-
well done.
What does it...
In
what?
reference to the genes, obviously,
Oh,
but
you
gene
see, I
splicing is
see.
that's a molecular biology
We've
thing.
just read out praise.
I'm so sorry
No,
about
well
that.
done. I don't know anything about science, so I didn't get it. I don't even know gene splicing. Now you've said gene splicing.
Oh, I
you
do.
know what I mean.
Even I do.
I think I went to school with gene splicing.
There's been some debate about what they should call these genes. I don't know if gene splicing is necessarily a good brand name.
No,
for
I
these
think
genes,
that's. I think that I like it.
Gene splicing, okay. That's it then, everyone.
Okay, good night then. So I'm thinking.
because they've been described as the apocalypse of genes.
I
Yes.
don't quite get that.
Well, just the idea that we've had the distress genes. You've even got perspex windows in the knee now.
And they look like your knees are in quarantine.
Yes.
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 Or they look like your knees have recreated. You know the bit at the end of E.T. where the
gone
government
camping.
scientists are looking at
Yes.
E.T. It's like your knees are wearing hazard suits.
I think the fashion commentator who said that, yes, they have commentators. I think it's the suggestion that things have gone too far now. Let's call it off. The gene is ceasing to exist as a garment.
I think these are much less extreme than ripped jeans, which
Do
we
you?
accept as the norm.
Yeah.
Well, you
Yeah,
can't
they're
buy
just-
in jeans intacto these days.
They've just picked up the zip faster and they've run with it. I like that as a concept. I think because the whole thing now is happening underneath with the zip, they should be called submergenes.
Very nice.
I worry,
Or maybe
Frank,
the bottom line, as that is what they follow.
I think as they combine to make a whole row, they could be called a complete waste.
lovely.
I don't know if you'd get that through a meeting.
No.
Shall we call them a complete waste?
It's no make like a banana,
Or if you got
which
the-
is what I
yeah.
call them.
If you got the Fugees to sponsor them, you could call them My Cleft Gene. Like Wyclef John. That's I've gone on a lot.
Wow. Whoa. I admire your work there.
I didn't think I could land that fish. I don't think I
I
have.
worry about the zip in the waistband area. If you've had 3 dinners, for example, if you're a little bit on the obelix side,
What you want is
It's gonna-
a lace.
yeah,
There you go. So you can wear it slightly ajar.
yeah,
You've got to be a bit careful.
You wanted to get Rob Tofield to advertise these jeans.
exactly, yeah.
Can't even
Like the
think,
man-
I
like
can't even
those,
think of Rob Tofield alone in his room listening to me talking about it. I feel awful about it.
Oh, Frank.
Well, I'm just scared that we live in the age of the pervert and the prankster for these jeans, and that's the danger is if you're in public.
Yes, that's the age we live in.
Oh, I thought it was the dawning of the age of Aquarius.
This
but
is the dawning of the age of the pervert.
Oh, please. It's breakfast radio.
This is
Frank Skinner, Absolute Radio.
At the moment, they only make them for women,
Yeah.
which is, take this.
It's all right for them.
If they make a men's version and it puts a stop to one of my pet hates, which is the urinal unbuckler, then I'll be glad.
With these
For some
characters,
reason-
does the buckle just hang down?
But what they
How
do, they come
disgusting.
and undo their whole trouser.
Yeah.
Someone would say. There's no need for it. The whole idea of the fly hole is for all that. But they unbuckle it. Why?
Do
like,
they?
oh no, there's not going to be enough room here. It really winds me off. I don't want to see swinging belt buckles.
It's a
next
bit
to
Jacob Marley as well with the clanking chain.
me. Exactly.
That's what I hate a button fly for that reason. There's too much admin involved.
Many years ago, I got a gift, Steve, from the people on the radio show, and it was a bowling ball bag. And it had exactly the same zip, a zip that went right the way round underneath the ball and came up just by the finger holes.
Yeah.
And how funny that if I'd have known then what I know now, I could have made a small fortune. Is this a hint? It's just been passed a note that says "shut up" by the producer. Okay, so thank you so much for listening today. It's been, as ever, a great pleasure. What can I say? Bring on Vic Feather.
The Frank Skinner Show on Absolute Radio. Back Saturday morning from 8. Tune in live for the full Frank experience.
Absolute Radio.